All right, so here we're starting with 3.7 and 3.8, our class activity number 1. So we're looking at slope review. So we already actually talked about slope review previously, but it's a pretty important concept, so I thought it'd be good if we reviewed it. All right, so pretty much there are 3 ways to find slope. So we're going to have 1 way, 2 way, 3 ways. And then with these 3 different ways, because they're different, a lot of times you decide to use one of them based on the information you're given. All right, so the first way that we're going to look at for finding slope, remember we call slope m. A good way to remember that is mountains have slope. So we label slope with the lowercase m. Please use the lowercase, not a capital. All right, so m equals, and we use y sub 1 minus y sub 2 all over x sub 1 minus x sub 2. So you might be wondering, what are all these little sub 1s and y's going on? Well, what these are 2 separate coordinate pairs. So we use this method for finding slope if we are given 2 coordinate points. Okay, so 2 coordinate points, we'll call them x sub 1, comma, y sub 1, and x sub 2, comma, y sub 2. So, for example, I'll do my examples in red. An example of 2 coordinate points might be 2, comma, negative 1, and let's say 1/2, comma, 0. So these are 2 coordinate points. If we are given 2 coordinate points, we can plug them into this formula, and we could solve for our slope. All right, so that's the first way. Let's see, the second way to find slope. M equals rise over run. So pretty similar to the top one, but rise over run, that's when we're going to actually be counting the slope. So to count the slope, what do we need? Well, the best piece of given information to use this method is when we're given a graph. So let me go ahead and draw a graph here. Sorry, I don't have my ruler with me. Okay, so let's label some points. And let's use green. Why not? Oops. Not the best line either. All right, so we're given this line, and we're asked, how do you find slope? Well, using the rise over run method, we're trying to see, to get from this point to this point, how many tick marks do I rise, and how many tick marks do I run? So run is talking about the horizontal movement. So run is this way, rise is this way. And it doesn't matter which points you choose as long as you're trying to get from one point on the line to the other point on the line. So let's go ahead and try this. So our slope m is going to equal, okay, so let's start at this point. How many points do I have to go up? So I go up 1, 2. That's level with this point, so I went up 2, so that's going to be positive 2. And then I run 1, 2, 3. Aha! I've hit the point I was trying to hit. So how many did it go? I went in this direction, so right 3. So when we're moving right, it's going to be a positive number. So positive 3. So positive over positive is a positive. So my slope is 2 over 3. So you might be asking, well, what if I didn't move up first? What if I went from this point to that point? Would I get the same slope? The answer is yes, so let's take a look at that. So trying it the opposite way. So we're going to start from this point and go to that point. So the question is, how many do I go down? Well, I go down 1, 2. Okay, so when we go down, that's a negative number. So instead of a positive 2, it's a negative 2. And how many do I need to run? So I go 1, 2, 3. Okay, so I went left 3, which is going back 3. When we do that, that's a negative number. So that's negative 3 for my run. And then what is the negative divided by a negative? Well, it's a positive number. 2 over 3. So notice our slopes came out to the exact same number. So it does not matter if you start from this point and go down and back, or if you start from this point and go up and right. You will still end up with the same slope. Okay, so this was the second method for finding slope. Rise over run, best used when you have a graph. Best time to use rise over run. Okay, so we've covered the first two methods. This one, the formula, this one, rise over run. The last one is actually an equation. Okay, so y equals mx plus b. And this little guy is called the slope-intercept form. Slope-intercept. Whoa, I totally spelled that wrong. And I don't have my whiteout. Intercept. Forgiveness. Thank you. Okay. Now this one's kind of weird because there are a bunch of variables in here. We have y, we got m, we got x, and we got b. So I'm trying to find slope. So what did I say slope was? The variable we use for slope is the lowercase m. So taking a look at this equation, where is m? Sorry, I hit my mic. M is right there. It is the number by x. Now, it's a number by x as long as we have y by itself. So if y is by itself. All right, so we use the slope-intercept form if we are given an equation. So if given an equation. Okay, so let's do two examples for this one. Okay, so here's an equation. Let's give this one. I'll call this example number 1. I'm given the equation y equals 1 over 2x plus 3. And I'm asked, what is the slope? Well, I know I'm given an equation, so the best method to use would be this one. And this method says, if y is by itself, look at the number by x. Okay, so take a second. Let's figure out what is the number by x. Well, looking at it, there's x, and the number by it is a half. Okay, so my slope, m equals 1 over 2. And notice I write m equals. Please label your slope in that way. Okay, this one didn't require too much work. The equation was already in slope-intercept form. So let's take a look at another example where the equation isn't in slope-intercept form. Example number 2. Okay, so we're given this equation. 2x plus 3y equals 5. Okay, so it's an equation, and we're asked to find slope. You might be tempted to say, oh, slope is 2, because it's a number by x. But remember, we can't do that because we need to have y by itself. And notice y is not by itself. Okay, so our goal is to isolate y. So to do that, let's subtract 2x to the other side. So let's cancel. Minus 2x, and let's rewrite this. 3y equals negative 2x plus 5. Ooh, y is almost by itself. We still have that 3 hanging out there. So how do we get y by itself? Let's divide everyone by 3. And, I'm running out of room. Y equals negative 2 over 3x plus 5 over 3. All right. Is y by itself? Yes, indeed it is. So to find the slope, I just look for x. Where is x? Right there. The number next to x is negative 2 over 3. So my slope for this equation is m equals negative 2 over 3. And I box my answer. All right, so this was the review on the 3 different ways we use to find slope. Okay, so remember, if you're given 2 points, use this method. If you're given a graph, you find slope using that, rise over run. If you're given an equation to find slope, solve for y and look for the number by x. All right, so let's go ahead and do some problems on this. Okay, so shifting up. Okay, so find the slope for each of the following. A. Okay, so you're given this information. So it's a table of values. All right, so go ahead, pause the video if you can, and try and figure out what method would you use to find the slope. Okay, so hopefully you've paused the video and tried this by yourself. All right, so what am I given? I'm given a table of values, which means these can all be written as coordinate points. So what method did I say was best to use if you were given coordinate points? Let's see. This method is the best method to use if I'm given 2 coordinate points. Okay, so we're going to use this method, m equals y1 minus y2 all over x1 minus x2. Oh, the question might be, gosh, what is x1 and what is y1? Well, remember, we go ahead and label the coordinate points. So these are going to be the x1s. Think of a married couple. They normally have the same last name. So this will be x sub 1, y sub 1. And these guys, they'll be the sub 2s. Couple sub 2, x sub 2, y sub 2. All right, so let's plug those in. So y sub 1 was 5. Y sub 2 is negative 6. Now, if you chose to plug the points in differently, let's say you labeled these as the sub 2s, your answer will still be the same answer. So if you want to, for fun, maybe try plug them in differently, and your answer will indeed come out to be the same answer. All over x sub 1 is 2, minus x sub 2 is negative 2. All right, let's see, 5 minus negative 6, that's going to become a plus. So that will be 11. All over 2 minus negative 2, that's going to be 2 plus 2, which is going to be 4. So our slope, 11 over 4. And you can go ahead and leave it as 11 over 4. That's perfectly fine. All right, so that was the method we used. We got 2 coordinate points, and we used that equation. All right, so let me fold this. So that was part A. We have 2 more parts to go for this video. All right, part B. Find the slope. Okay, so go ahead, pause the video, try figure out how you would find slope. All right, let's take a look at this. This is an equation. So let's see, what method for slope would I use if I'm given an equation? I'm going to use slope-intercept form. Okay, so remember, we can't be tempted to just pull the 2 off right now. We need to have y isolated. Y needs to be by itself. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's get y by itself. So get y by itself. Okay. So minusing 2x from both sides. Then we have negative 3y equals negative 2x plus 5. Y is almost by itself, not quite. We need to divide by the negative 3. And then let's see, simplifying. Y equals negative divided by negative, positive. So 2 over 3x minus 5 over 3. So now y is by itself, so we can go ahead and pull the slope off. The slope is the number by x. M equals 2 over 3. So if you got that, go ahead and give yourself a little mini round of applause. Good job. Okay, so one last part for this video. That was part B. Let's go ahead and do part C. Okay, so find the slope of this little line. Okay, so here's a line. It passes through this point and this point. Okay, so go ahead, pause the video, and figure out how you'd find the slope. All right. So let's see. How would I find the slope? Well, what am I given? I'm given a graph. So what method should I use? Let's see. If I'm given a graph, the best method is rise over run. Okay, so let's use that method. Now remember, these methods, you don't have to use these methods if you're given this information. It's just normally the easiest way to find the slope. Okay, so there are other ways you could use, but I've often found that these are the best methods to use when you're given this equation, or these, pieces of information. Okay, back to our problem. So we're using rise over run because we had a graph. So let's see. I'm going to start from this point here and work my way to that point. So how many do I need to go up? 1, 2. So going up is a positive number, plus 2. And then let's see, how many need to go run? 1, 2, 3. So I went back 3. Back 3 is going to be negative 3. Negative 3. So what's that going to be? That's going to equal 2 over 3, and we had the negative, so negative 2 over 3. So let's rewrite that nicely. M equals negative 2 over 3. And that's the way to find my slope. All right,